Hello and welcome to Reuzel Live. Today is October 13th, 2025. My name is Nicholas Giberson with Reuzel Education, and today we have a very special presentation all the way from Tucson, Arizona. Scumbassador, salon owner, NAHA 2025 finalist, Joel Tenser. Joel, what's going on?
Hey guys, thank you for the intro, Nick. Yes, I'm Joel Tenser. I own Rogue Salon here in Tucson, Arizona, and I'm a proud Scumbassador. And apparently somehow I found my way into the NAHA nomination circle this year. Thank you for bringing that up, Nicholas. I have my good friend Andrew here today, and we have some impressive hair, and he's got a pretty darn defined natural parting here. So my plan today is to do somewhere between what we call our boogie and something of a flat top. It's going to be a little bit more square than our usual contour and all kind of directed back while still being pretty tight here through the sides. For that, we have a little bit of navigation that we like to discuss. We break our head apart into four main sections here. So we have the nape, our contour, the transition, and the top. And the order of operations for me today, we're going to start in zone 2, work our way up, and then back down. Since I'm rambling, let's just get into it. What do you say? So this mister is working well with me today. In our water to start our process, I put a couple drops of the Reuzel hair tonic. This helps us break down any product that might be in the hair. This is the start of our Reuzel routine, which is something that I do on just about every client. And once we have a nice even saturation, we're taking a look at his hairline, his bone structure, kind of analyzing where we want our fade to come from. And then we're going to find what we call our primary parting. So we're looking for the parietal ridge, which comes essentially right from the recession point, and we're following that bone structure. We also like to create a 90 degrees and invert it to kind of double check ourselves. All right, so trying to do this in one even movement for you. Catch the hair and make sure it's nice and clean, up and out of my way. Now again, to follow his bone structure, we are going to drop fairly low, following his crown, almost all the way down to his occipital bone here. This is going to give us a really nice blend and fade, as well as give us control over the length through the crown. Before I start in with my clippers, I'm making sure that we have good, even saturation here, because water is our truth serum. It's going to tell us what the hair is going to do and what it can do. Okay. So talking about our tool choice, we are using these very brightly colored combs, both so we have some significant contrast, as well as I like using these combs so that I have consistency in my tools. So using my mirror as reference, I'm bringing my first first section up. I'm square over the ear. I'm square to my chest. And we can balance a marble or a pig right on the top of that section, and it's not going to fall. Tips of the teeth of the top of the comb are vertical. And we are making our first decision. Notice that's only about 1.5 inches square over the ear. I take a half a step and work towards that hairline again. And we match it. And to work back to the crown again. Checking our section. Tops of the tips and teeth of the comb are vertical. And notice I'm only working in about 1 inch, 1.25 inches. This way, I have complete control over the round of the head and the shape that I'm looking for. Square and working. Now notice that back here, we've got a little bit of a dry patch, just re-wetting and continuing through. So if you look at the entry I had done for Naha, this is pretty darn close to the same fade that we had done. The biggest difference is that that model had a very, very bright head of hair and a little bit less of a natural parting. So we're trying to do something very similar so we can show you my methodology. All right, so working back down a section, tops of the tips of the teeth of the comb, I'm looking for my previous guide and just blending out from it. Again, working square in that first 1.5 inches and removing the bulk. And removing the bulk. Working again into the next section, keeping the comb square and removing any of that extra round. I'm working right to the front of the temple, keeping that all square. And I've been anchoring the comb, the ridge of the comb here, right at the top of our zone 1. This is giving me just a little bit of a lead so that once we have it all blown dry and I come back, I can easily remove whatever lines and bulk. Now, as we're working, this is just our rough draft, so don't worry too much about details. Just work for consistency and flow. Again, using that bone structure as an anchor. Not bad. Now there is going to be some density changes, some high points and low points, but essentially we've got our mid-length, our top length here in the fade, and we know what angle to set the length on top. I'll show you what I mean by that in a few minutes. Now, I think you saw that on the first pass, how natural his part is, super well defined. That took me almost no effort to find. However, for the purposes of symmetry, as I re-wet this area, we are going to work off that same parietal ridge, that same bone structure here. Trying to keep our body positioning square and our part lines fairly even here. So this time I've turned the comb. I'm making sure that it's going to have teeth that grab the direction that I want everything to lay. Finding that recession point, and we're following it with our body and a finger just to make sure everything holds. There we go. Now remember, I am actually dropping this even further for this shape. So I'm following it all the way down to the occipital bone and trying to make sure that we keep all of this clean. And if you're struggling in this area, resaturate it. Water is going to help you hold all of that up out of your way with minimal clips, which is my next move. So we made some decisions and moved pretty quickly through that first side. We are going to try and mimic it on the opposite. Easier said than done. So again, combing through my section, and I can already tell I need more moisture to get some control out of this. Proper saturation is going to give you good control over your sections and everything you do. Proper sanitation also matters, but that was a misnomer, a misspoken. All right, so comb that all up and vertical. And for my spacing, I have the tips of my fingers between the comb and the head. That helps me anchor and balance for what I'm doing. Again, using the mirror as reference, making sure that we have this nice and square and that my body positioning is balanced to the area that I'm working on. Now, your body positioning is a key part of the Reuzel methodology. It keeps everything nice and balanced. It keeps the shape of the cut square to the area that you're working on and the shape of the patron's scalp and skull, as well as one of the more interesting things about our method. See, my father and I were talking about this cut and reviewing it just this past weekend. And he was looking at some of my notes, and the textbook that Reuzel has given us almost has dancing steps. And I never connected it. I knew that that was a big part of our methodology. I have no background in dancing. You know, it didn't make any sense to me, but that is a very interesting and cool connection because it is about movement and flow and energy and how you hold your tools and your body actually translate into the hair. So I gotta thank him for calling that out. I'm just keeping my area clean. All right, so as we move down another section, again, we're going to use the ridge of our comb, square and anchor. The tops of the tips of the teeth of the comb are angled out. We're just losing the guide up top. And 1.5 inches, 2 inches, where I have control over the tension. Angling out. Now I know that because I'm using the temple as one of my visual guides, that so far I am even with what I did on the last side. Go and bounce that out again. Boom. And remember, this is just our rough draft. Working through this, there may be imperfections, there may be some lengths that we want to leave a little extra long so we can refine it. These decisions put you as the artist and the creative in power. Okay. So working in clean sections and areas is a must to me. I'm just getting some of the extra material out of our way. All right. So part of the idea of using our hair tonic in the water. Hey, it smells delicious. It's a great way to start the conversation about product with your patron. And as a hairdresser who mostly works on men or in a barber category, a lot of my patrons are coming in on their lunch break. Some of them have high-powered jobs. They don't necessarily want to have to get a full shampoo and blow dry and spend all this time at a salon. So speed is a big, big deal in what we do, as well as making sure that the patron feels like all the dots, all the notes are checked. All right, so I'm starting in and I'm finding a parting over the highest point of the head. This is the apex that I've just found. Now I know for me that we can find it if we balance the comb, and the highest point is about where we want to find that. It's also just about right behind the ears. I also try and follow the same parting for 90% of our haircuts. There are some slight variations in how we do this, but this is the base for the Vanguard, the Boogie, and it's actually a quite intelligible way to help break apart the top of the head. With that, we have our crown sections, the two corners and the front, or Rob likes to call this the Tinder triangle, patent still pending. It's all about which side do you flip it to, guys? All right, so back to sectioning. We've got that crown sectioned out. I am looking again for that recession point, and I found my high point, and I'm just connecting the dots right here. Get some of those side hairs out of the way. And if you have proper saturation, a little bit of moisture helps keep that section together. So you remember me talking about that really, really well-defined natural parting. All I'm going to do is kind of press against his hairline and help separate it. This is the variation that I was talking about that allows a little bit of that side parting to hang over. Now I know, Andrew, I know your hair is wet. Is this okay? Is that dripping in your face?
No, it's good.
Perfect. Even though I'm still instructing, the patron's comfort is always more important. All right, so part of that variation, we are following that side parting all the way back, as well as finding a crown point right here. So the reason I'm doing this in back is to allow me a little bit of creative freedom when I come to this section and how I choose to blend it and where his whirl sits a little bit further back. I don't know if you can quite see that here, but that allows me some choices to make in a moment. All right, so when we're working on what we call the cool hair, the top of the area, I am taking about an inch section parallel to my parting. Some of these corners want to fall for me today. Remember what I said earlier, a little extra moisture helps you hold that out of the way. So a couple years ago, I had gone out to the academy in Rotterdam. I was very, very fortunate to catch that before they ended up taking it on the road. And I made some amazing, amazing friends who I still hear their voices in the back of my head. It's all about posture. So I'm going to use my straight shear. I'm bringing this section square and I'm bringing it down to that weight line. And we're looking for our previous section, again, right over the ear, and we are cutting just to our second knuckle. And every time we work on a section, we're going to sidestep so that our body position is square, our posture is good. If you're ever questioning your body position, the mirror puts another 4 to 6 feet between you and whatever you're working on, and make sure that your lines are good and balanced. Still working down to that weight line so that we can have some choices on what we do with the extra material when we refine it. And we are consistently combing, making sure that our body position is even. And now that I'm starting to work lower, I got to bring Andrew up to my height. I can hear both Nicholas and Chris check your body positioning. Duncan, I don't even need to hear your voice. I hear your heels just clicking behind me, and then all of a sudden I got to stand right nice and tall. All right, so still twisting those sections, keeping myself clean and out of the way here. Now that I'm reaching, we got to bring this back down a little bit. Guys, the biggest tool you have is your chair and your eyes. Your body positioning is going to be the longevity of your career. You don't want to be fighting back pains like I and some of my mentors have. So use your tools to your advantage. I'd also like to call out that I am using my workhorse shears. These are the Mizutani Scorum Black Masters. This is what I use for 90% of my men's cutting, because knowing your tools is all about consistency and being able to create a predictable result. All right, searching for that same guide. Now notice that we are essentially using this as a stationary guide, which allows us to build up weight around the crown. And we still have a little bit of weight that we're going to come back through and clean up. All right, working into the corners, working with about an inch or so. And getting the extra material up and out of my way. So I am just going to work now into the front of the ear, keeping that still stationary guide and square, looking for 2 points of reference. We have our previous guide and the one that we are looking for underneath. And eliminate that bulk. In front of the ear, we're taking a much lower elevation and giving us a slightly descending angle towards the front of the face. We get to preserve a little bit of length this way. Working up another inch above. And boom. And we have some nice movement. Checking myself in that mirror. And so far, I'm digging that shape and contour. All right. As I am working into that front, you're taking a diagonal from that fringe, keeping this up out of my way. Clean sections are going to be a clean shape. All right, so again, stationary, making sure that all of our hair is combed down to, and we are aiming at just the corner of his brow. This gives us a little bit of material to work with when it's all dry and directed back. Already giving us a nice contour here. I feel like I hit my other section here. Okay, so sometimes we do little silly things and overreach, and that's all fine. Having the shape defined and knowing your sections helps us find where we were very easily. Hey, look at that, we're back on track. All right. So trying to twist those, keeping myself clean sections and all of that. So a few years ago, I was having my hair done actually by Nicholas. I don't know if you remember this one, but I had, Nicholas had, been saying, don't cut past your second knuckle, which is one of the basic tropes in beauty school. Cut past your second knuckle, you lose control, you lose the ability to compress the same way between different knuckles. There's different muscle density. So you have less control over the section. And also pads, fattier parts of your finger. It's more likely to get in the way. So as a hairdresser, the trope is that many of us have finger tattoos, which I had just gotten my first set of them. Anyway, Nicholas says, don't cut past your second knuckles. It hurts. And somebody screams over our shoulder, yeah, that's why we all have finger tattoos. Thrilled to be a trope here. All right, so we are doing that same methodology that we did on the other side here. Again, I have his side parting all sectioned out. And I am working down to that previous section. I'm working on the other side now, so we've got to make sure that our moisture is even. Having that hair tonic in our water bottle also helps the moisture retention. So there's numerous reasons to put that in your water bottle or to keep it on hand. All right, so again, looking for body positioning, looking for tool positioning, making sure that our patron is sitting nice, tall, and comfortably, and that we can find our guides. I can words today, guys. Our guides easily. Notice that I've been working fairly consistently with the wide teeth of my comb here. That gives me the same tension throughout the section as I'm working with it. Tool consistency. Yes, Nick. Hello.
Hey, I just want to let you know that we have viewers from all over the world today, including, but not limited to, the USA, Canada, Guatemala, Taiwan, Mexico, Finland, Vietnam, Paraguay, Australia, Poland, and Switzerland.
Wow. Guys, I am flattered to have such such a crowd and from all over the place. Thank you for tuning in wherever you are. Yeah, thank you. And if you're not up on it, guys, my name is Joel Tenser. I am Reuzel Scumbassador and salon owner based out of Tucson, Arizona. And I am doing a haircut similar to what I had for Naha. The key difference is that this patron, this model, Andrew, has a wonderful, wonderful side part here. And we are going to use his natural features and try and enhance them and assimilate that into our look today. So if you saw what I had done, we have our side parting and our whirl, and I had made the choice to bring everything back over the crown in both directions. This creates a symmetric shape. This gives us a little bit of detail so that he can easily find his natural parting when he chooses to. And we're going to have a lot of material to make some awesome choices with. All right, so working again into the side part. This is about the only thing that we're doing that is asymmetric here. Working in about an inch, inch and a half sections, still square, still stationary parting. And we eliminate up to our second knuckle. And in front of the ear, I'm just giving you a little extra, and we're point cutting that little bit so that there's a little bit of movement. Again, giving ourselves some options and choices here. Okay, so working through the top and the sides here. Andrew, you're tall. I got to bring you down a few inches here. Maybe not that low. Again, looking for even saturation. So the shaping here, we want to create a square shape around an oval, essentially. So we have our fade, essentially, blending outward. We know how short we want to go, which I am bringing it down to skin. And our hair through the sides also helps us determine what kind of length we can have here. And we already have some of those boundaries brought in. So I am going to bring Andrew's hair. Now we are working into our top section. We've surpassed the transition. We are working into our zone 4, as we call it, the mohawk section. And I'm just getting a good eye and seeing how tall I want everything to be. Seeing that we have a little bit of a lead from our crown here, which you can see already from our scissor cutting had gotten a shape. I can blend it and create a square shape from about 2.5 inches above that crown. Now, again, we are working a square shape around a oval. So I have that viewpoint, that guide that I'm working towards, and I'm bringing my fringe up square, making sure that my body position is square to the section, and we are eliminating some bulk. So this is one of the areas that I am deviating from our textbook. We are usually going to do something a little bit more condensed cutting and compressed, which creates valleys and peaks, which is absolutely fine. It gives you material to choose to blend from. The reason I am choosing to do 3 mohawk sections that are brought square to each other is because I am trying to have a little bit more of a square shape, giving it more of a quiff or flat top effect through our top here. Still working in those sections, trying to bring a little bit of that center mohawk so I have a guide. And it's still working right to that second knuckle. And move the extra material out of my way. Find that guide. Make sure that our body positioning is nice and square and that we're still using even tension. Boom. Eliminate the extra material. So the reason that I have chosen to work through the fade in this process, we are doing the cool hair first. I want to be able to make some choices and determine all that we want to do with this before we make the choices with the fade. Once you remove it, you can't put it back. What a trope, right? All right, so if you remember that top section that we had done right over the apex of the head, that's where I'm choosing to start to check my shape and balance. Also checking the head and body positioning of both myself and my patron. And you can see I slightly angled out a bit here. Hey, that happens. Make sure that your squares are balanced, your shoulders are balanced. Now I've chosen to go in and start point cutting so that I'm not completely changing the shape of my cut. Just want to balance out some of those highs and lows and also start to create some internal texture because this entire cut so far has been done with a straight shear. Okay. So one other detail that I really enjoy doing is pulling this crown. I'm searching right for that blending point, and we are compressing this a little bit, finding that same angle, and just using the teeth of our comb, or the teeth of our shears, excuse me. This compression is condensed cutting and again creates those valleys and peaks, which helps us have a little bit of kind of a DA already built in there. Again, all of this is going to get refined in a few minutes. All right, so working in, I am going to start applying our styler products. This is our new Grooming Tonic Texture Cream, which has a pretty decent hold and a medium shine. I want to say medium hold, medium shine on that. It's a little bit heavier weight than our Grooming Tonic. So I work this into my hands almost like a lotion. And we're going to Bob Ross it, okay? We're going to use one hand as our paintbrush. I'm going to work it from the scalp out. And when I feel that, kind of leave my hands rework it, use your body heat, keep that moving. So this is our pre-styler or blow dry styler. This has a little bit of a heat protectant. It smells delicious as our entire line does. Going to get a vent brush and my blow dryer. I have this at a medium heat and medium airflow. So yes, I am briefly just getting this stuff eliminated and dried so that when I go through with the clippers, it's less resistant and it's going to be as predictable. So I'm doing what I call a wrap dry. This encourages a little bit of movement and closeness. Starting here around the crown where the first bit of our bolt comes from, I'm using both that kind of diagonal down and then vertical down. Creates a little bit of movement, keeps it close to the scalp, helps me build up that shape. Moving the length up out of my way, working again square to that section. And I'm starting to use a little bit of a vertical blow dry because volume is awesome. Who doesn't like big hair? As well as expanding the shape of the cut is going to allow me to see where all of those lines are and move from. Andrew, you have awesome hair. All right. Easier said than done. I'm rotating the nozzle so that it's square to the area that I'm working. Now, the easier said than done part is the ambidextrous part here. We're trying to keep everything moving in that same kind of flow. Clearly, I am more comfortable with the other hands, but why twist your entire body position? I think Nicholas called it whip and nay-nay at one point, called me out for doing it. Guys, we tease so that we can protect your body positioning and keep the longevity of your career. As well as it's part of how we get our shapes so consistent and precise. All right, so before I start working into the top, I'm just using my hands to check for any cool spots. Cool spots means there's still some moisture. Talking about with a nay-nay. Having extra moisture in your section is going to allow that curl pattern to revert to its natural state, which is absolutely fine if that's what you're going for. Today for our cut, that is definitely not the idea. So blow dry should be methodical, but not super complex. So notice I'm still following his bone structure. Everything is squared. And to check it all, make sure that your body positioning is balanced again. Now, the only thing that's fancy about this blow dry, we're going to do kind of a S wave here, okay? I believe David would call this the Superman. David and Cody, some of our other Scumbassadors, call this the Superman S. We are all about mnemonics, helping you guys remember our methodology. Another little trick that one of the Scumbassadors taught me, I'm using the forehead as where I'm aiming the airflow. It's naturally bouncing and creating that volume. There we go. Trying not to take out my cameraman. So we've already got a pretty good square shape built in here. We have a decent fade and some leads into the next few shapes.
Hey, Joel.
Yes, Nick.
Hey, I was just letting you know, I had asked our viewers what products they wanted to see you use, and we had some different recommendations of severed head, cocktailing severed head with pink pomade, the heavy hold grease. So you've got some options, but feel free to use whatever you think best fits your client's needs.
Awesome. Well, I was pre-planning the severed head for this gentleman because I think it's going to give us some really nice lift and separation. And guys, I am going back through and just using the rock on flat topper just to help me balance out some of those highs and lows. Again, we are not completely redoing our shape. We're just creating a sense of balance through this. And so I've made the choice here that I want to bring from that occipital bone a little bit more square. So now we have a really well-defined ducktail coming through that. And I'm going to go back through with our blending shears. And you're starting here on the right side, as we always do. And I'm just coasting over the sides here with our blending shear. You're just refining the shape and making sure all of that softness is there. Get the length up out of the way. So why am I using a blending shear? Well, the 25 teeth of this, which are actually fairly aggressive, it takes about 50% of the hair out. The 25 teeth are pretty closely matched to the teeth on our clippers, which helps us blend any of those demarcations that we have. So notice I have a pretty square shape right through here. I am anchoring back down to that occipital bone, keeping square to that, and eliminating bulk. That's also why, while I'm using the blending shears, which is shear work, that I chose to use my clipper comb. I want the same consistent tension on the areas that I'm using all of my clippers. Now I am also following that same pattern that we had started with of working through the sides and then through to the top, which allows me to be able to do certain refinements quickly and spend a little bit more time detailing others. All right, working into the top. This is one of my favorites. So working at a 45 kind of underhand, I'm able to create some internal texture and movement. And I'm still working in those same square sections, but I am less precise here intentionally, which allows for some randomness, some movement in that texture. And I am working underneath my grip at that 45, which again helps us build a shape. All of this is with intention. Find the corners and work them out. Now we're just trying to soften that square shape, not eliminate it. Okay, so I am going to start in on our fade. Again, working in clean areas. So I'm going to start the fade with actually my blending, my taper blade here. And I'm starting this square and I'm just creating a mark for myself. Now notice I'm not drilling it in. This is our standard clipper grip here. I'm going right below our recession, our transition points there, right at the top of our zone 1. And we're working down to where we had left off. Again, this is just a quick guide for ourselves. So part of the choice in my tool positioning here, I'm allowing myself just a little bit of stubble, even though this is already at the closed positioning, having just a little bit of a lead so that when I come in with my trimmers and my my tighter tools, that I have the ability to work through any lines left behind. And I can still hear all of your voices in the back of my head, guys. Yes, check your body positioning yet again. All right. So I am going to do this fade all freehand. I've switched to my my fade blade clipper. So I am starting this at an open blade, and instead of square, we're starting with the teeth at the scalp. Part of the difference here is we are extending our fade. So that becomes a 1 as I flick through that section. So I know that the clipper, the clipper comb that I was using is a 1.5 at the ridge, which is part of why I left that lead. And then as I'm working through the area, now I'm switching that position. I have the blade more square and flick through the area. And I'm slowly working the teeth down. So I had it open, I have it halfway, and now I have it closed. And I'm just helping myself eliminate any of those lines. Step back a little bit so you can see it, look at the silhouette, and then work on the next area. Guys, again, use your tools to your advantage. We have these amazing, amazing chairs that pump up. So work at an area where you can see what you're working on. So I have made the choice to work in about 2.5, 3 inches as an area. This allows me the control to make sure that my areas are blending into each other pretty seamlessly. So working down to the half blade or open or half open, I can words. And then working back down. And I am working consistently. We have that descending angle. I have flipped back to the teeth square. And we are just flicking through using that bone structure as our guide. Back down to the open guard. Makes guard skipping really easy for us. Or side skipping, very easy for us. Now this is the refining point, so go back through. If you see an area, make sure you're happy with it before you end up moving on. Yes, we are leaving this little fryer section, which we're going to come back through with our trimmers and completely eliminate. Me. And again, using our mirrors and our lights to see that blend. I'm happy with it so far. On the other side, we are doing the same thing. Teeth open, looking through. So I learned this methodology through my good friends at Scorum and the Denver Academy. I hear that Nicholas has been cooking up some wonderful new classes that I'm both excited to take myself and excited to potentially be a part of in the future. I believe we just did our Classics 2 for the first time. Guys, if you have the ability to go check out any of our classes, whether it's the Academy, whether it's getting me or one of our other Scumbassadors down to your salon, live education is what keeps this industry moving. And on that note, also, thank you for coming out and spending your Monday with me. I know you guys could be doing so much else with your time as well. Part of why I love barbering so much is that it is a full sensory experience. Both use your eyes, your ears, all of it to make sure that the tools are doing exactly what you expect them to. So if you notice, not only as I'm passing through a section, yes, I'm monologuing, but I'm listening for the resistance, the sound that the tool makes as it finds hair. And make sure I'm not hitting anything new before I end up working down to that next area. All right. I don't know, Andrew, that fryer look is pretty awesome. And this shape is looking great, by the way. All right, so next move, of course, keep your tools clean. I have my trimmers. And I like to just get any of the spare, the hair that does not line up, redefine our details, and then using his cheekbone here, and we're just flicking away through that. So part of the reason why tool consistency matters, guys, many of the tools that I use truly are stock blades. I have not adjusted and zero gapped things. I have, but not in anything that I'm using today. Part of the point of that is all of the blades in the system that I am working with have different gappings and different lengths. I know by working with them that they are fairly consistent or interchangeable, which means I am using my tools to my advantage. And again, consistency is key. Consistency gives you the ability to be creative within those boundaries. I'm still redefining. Now I try not to over trim and clean up that perimeter. We still want it to have a very natural feel. However, we all have a few stray hairs that just don't connect. So I did hear a request. I believe it was the severed head pomade, which is my absolute favorite. This was definitely what I was going to be using anyway. So, ooh, this is a fresh can. I forgot I just got this one. All right, so we are spinning the tin, a little bit of pressure. This is about right. This is how I measure out how much product. We call this about 1 knuckle. And make sure your product is nicely sealed. Now I am going to cocktail it with just a nail's worth of our surf cream. This has a sea salt finish to it and helps kind of cut some of the holds, give a little bit more of a natural movement to whatever we're doing. We're going to cocktail these really, really well using your body heat. And you remember that Bob Ross thing that we were doing earlier? The paint palette, the paintbrush. You got to beat the devil out of your client. Oh, that's just, again, good mnemonic, helps you remember what we're doing. And my methodology, I'm trying to work from the scalp out because your product, your pomade, is your support structure. Using my palm to kind of back comb, make sure that it's got all the way through. Using body temperature and my hands to kind of lay that into place. We have our switchblade comb. This is one of the Reuzel signatures, and this alone is worthwhile going to Denver. The Denver Academy, I know they gave it to us while we were there. I believe you can order some of them in Amazon, but it's one of our signature identic tools. All right, so we've polished our pig using a little bit of the severed head pomade. We have sculpted an amazing, amazing cut here. And I see two details as I combed back through it that I just want to key into. Softening right here where everything matches and blends. And to finish this, by the way, all of our products, or the majority of our products, are very stylist friendly, many of which are water soluble, which means they wipe off of your hands clean and easy. I'm going to finish this out using the astringent foam, since we brought him down to stubble, not quite skin. Keeping our product vertical to foam. If you shake it out too much, the product just doesn't foam right. It's okay if that's the case. We're just going to have you squeeze it once or twice until it foams up again. Andrew, how do you feel?
Amazing. Good stuff.
You look great, man. Nicholas, I'm going to turn it back to you. This is my rendition of the boogie with a little bit of a flat top going on.
Great. Give us a spin so we can check out your work, Joel.
All right. I also am thrilled to have a patron and model who also had a twisty stash. No, that wasn't planned.
Awesome, awesome. Any final words before we log off this morning?
Just wanted to say thank you all for joining me today. This is always an adrenaline rush and always so much fun. Yeah, we I'm sure have some classes coming up in the Denver Academy, which I believe, Nicholas, you might have some info about.
For sure. I'll talk about all that in a second. But
cool.
If you got nothing else, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. We really appreciate your time on this Monday morning, evening, or afternoon, depending on where you're at. Just a few notes before we sign off. We do have some classes coming up at the Denver Academy. We've got a class this weekend, the Lowdown, which is a introductory course, the fundamentals for barbers and stylists with a year and a half or less behind the chair, open to students as well. Get to go ahead and get your signups in before we close that out this week. We got Clipper Carnage coming up on November 9th and 10th, and a final Plastics 1 class of the year, December 7th and 8th. Again, all these classes can be found on Reuzel.com. And thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.